Hello everyone and welcome to the Sack Race's top 5 EFL managers of the 2021 season. I'm here today with Gab Sutton from Football Lab. Hello Gab.
Hi Jack, how are you keeping?
I'm very well, thanks. And also Simon from Empty Seats and the Sportsman. How are you, Simon?
Very good, thanks Jack. Thanks for having me.
Cool. We have spent a while debating our top 5 managers. It's taken us an age, but we've nailed them down to 5. But guys, before we get underway, please do subscribe, like the video, and give us a comment. If we got it completely wrong, give us your top 5 in the comments below, and check out the sackrace.com. There's loads of vacancies at the moment, especially League Two. Every manager is changing. Every club is changing manager at the moment, and we've also got Tottenham, who is still looking for Jose Mourinho's successor. Gab, Simon, we spread these picks out over the 3 leagues, haven't we, and judge managers not only on title success and promotion, but what they've achieved relative to their resources and their pre-season expectations, if you will. So without further ado, in at number 5, we've got Daniel Farke from Norwich. He won the Championship title in style, 2nd promotion in 3 seasons. They were awful, weren't they, last season? Kept on losing at the end of the Premier League, but he's reinvigorated them following that drop down with swerve swagger. 29 wins, a club record, 97 points. Simon, you've watched a lot of Norwich this season. What has impressed you most about the way they bounced back and what Farke's done this season?
Well, I was one of those people who didn't think they would win the league. I didn't think they'd get automatic promotion. I thought they'd finish in the top 6 because I think they had a reasonably strong squad. But if you look at how they ended last season in the Premier League, especially that period where they came back without any fans, a restart, they lost every single game. They lost 11 on the bounce in all competitions. They barely scored a single goal. It was a shambles. They had a lot of players at the club who didn't want to be there. They got rid of a few of them. They also had to sell the likes of Ben Godfrey to Everton. Jamal Lewis went to Newcastle. But the other players who stuck around, the likes of Todd Cantwell, Emi Buendia in particular, Championship Player of the Year, the fact they were able to keep hold of him and Timo Pukki, and they've just managed to completely turn their season around, completely turn the form around, started with a bang and have absolutely romped the league. They've been by far the best team in the Championship this season. I think that's credit to Daniel Farke that he's gone back down to the Championship and done exactly what he did last time. They've had a very strong squad, but the fact they've won the league in the manner they've done it in, been an incredible side to watch yet again. And I'm really looking forward to seeing them again in the Premier League next season. I hope they can do a better job than they did last time round.
Yeah, I think they will, Simon, as well, because, in some ways they're very similar to their last season in the Championship. But on the other hand, I think they've been a lot more defensively resilient. That partnership with Jack Handley and Ben Gibson has been very strong this season. And I think they'll go up into the Premier League with a stronger foundation. So, yeah, I'd echo Simon's comments, but I also think they've been much stronger defensively this year as well.
I agree with you there, Gavin. I think you saw when they were in the Championship last time, they had all those kind of 4-3 wins, those 90th minute winners. Whereas this time around, it's been a lot more composed and a lot more convincing. This time around, I think they've got more points this time around as well, and I think they're going to do a better job. And they've got the right man in charge. And I think the likes of Delia Smith and the Norwich owners deserve great credit for sticking with Farke.
And Gab, I know you're a huge fan of Farke, but looking ahead a little bit, where do you think we could see him in the future, in a few years' time? Does he have the potential to become one of Europe's best managers?
Yes, I think so. I think he's learned a lot from that previous season in the Premier League. I mean, we've seen managers like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer have that terrible time at Cardiff, and now all of a sudden he's part of he's at Manchester United and he's hoping to go for the title next season. Long term, I could see Daniel Farke managing Bayern Munich in the Champions League. I could see him managing Germany at a World Cup. I really think he has that potential. He's someone who's stays very calm. He's very composed, and I feel like even in the big moments where there's goals that go in that could affect Norwich and promotion, he always keeps that emotion kind of inside and just stays collected, which I think is the mark of a really good manager. So last season in the Premier League will have been a real learning curve for him, and I think with a bit more investment this time around, I think Norwich could stay at comfortably and possibly try and emulate Leeds United.
Farke succeeding Nagelsmann at Bayern Munich next summer. That would be absolutely brilliant to see. In at number 4, we have Grant McCann, the Hull boss, League One title winners this season. Their first title since 1966, I believe. His future was in real doubt last summer, wasn't it? They had an absolute stinker, won one of their last 21 games in the Championship, were relegated. They got hammered 8-0, of course. Many thought he would go, but he stayed. Fair play to him. He's puffed his chest out and he's come back with an absolute bang. Many thought they'd finish mid-table at best, but they've won a strong division ahead of Peterborough, Sunderland, Portsmouth, so many big teams around, with attacking football too, and their record away has been absolutely superb. Gab, how on earth has McCann picked up the pieces? Not only picked up the pieces, but created a title-winning side.
Well, it's hugely impressive. It's interesting how two of the title-winning managers in the EFL season have actually recovered from a bottom place finish the previous campaign. We talked about Daniel Farker previously, and not a dissimilar story with Grant McCann, really, because there was a horrible capitulation from Hull in the second half of the 1920 campaign. I've seen lots of Hull City fans describing Grant McCann as clueless at that time, and now they're singing his name. So, but I think he's shown great mental resilience to kind of bounce back from that. And I also think, sometimes we talk about fans not being there, maybe impacting teams negatively. I actually think in Hull's case, it's probably helped Grant McCann a lot, because I think had they started the season with fans, there would have been a lot of pressure on Grant McCann to leave. And even there have been certain periods, I think, where Hull have lost 3 other bouts this season. And even then, fans could have got on Grant McCann's back. And I think the fact that they've expressed a lot of their discontent towards McCann over the summer on social media, I think that's maybe taken things away from the actual stadium. That's allowed McCann to kind of compartmentalise things and show some of the managerial promise we saw from him at Doncaster Rovers when he led them to the League One playoffs. Really excited about players like Keane Lewis-Potter, who's had a really good campaign. Him and Callum Elder have really stood out to me, and George Honeyman's probably been the best midfielder in League One. So, yeah, all credit to the Tigers.
And Simon, what do you make of this miraculous turnaround? Do you think he was quite lucky to keep hold of his job last summer?
I was a very big Grant McCann skeptic, and I'm more than happy to admit that. I thought he probably should have been sacked at some point in 2020. I didn't think he'd get the chance to manage in League One, to be brutally honest with you. And that's because I don't think they had any wins in their last 21 games in the Championship. I think their last win before this season was on New Year's Day, which is absolutely ridiculous. And obviously you mentioned that 8-0 to Wigan, which was potentially the lowest point the club's had in many a year, that result. So yeah, I thought that would be the final straw for McCann, and it is a remarkable turnaround. I didn't expect this at all. I thought they'd be 11th, 12th mid-table team pushing for the playoffs. I didn't expect them to turn it around and win the league. But you mentioned the attacking football they've been playing, the attacking players they've got, and the attacking players that McCann's been able to utilise there. Keane Lewis-Potter, probably my favourite player in League One this season. He's so good to watch. And then Malik Wilkes and Josh McGuinness as well. I think they both played in that 8-0 last season. And they've managed to turn it around, and it's credit to McCann and having the same sort of group of players around that they've managed to turn the atmosphere around at the club. I think it's a very good point Gab made. I'm not sure how much of a difference Hull fans in the stadium would have made, or the atmosphere around the club, but it's been so easy for him to turn it around, and that's, like Fark, a lot harder than it seems.
Number 3, Derek Adams at Morecambe. Unbelievable season. His first full season at the club, 4th in League 2. Joint highest ever finish. To put this into perspective, I've just got their recent finishes here: 22nd, 18th, 22nd, 18th, 21st. 9 of the last 10 seasons finish in the bottom half. He's not just had success at Morecambe, but he's had success at Ross County and Plymouth. But even the most optimistic of Morecambe fans could never, ever, I don't think, have predicted this. Gab, how has he taken a team that's constantly fighting for their survival to contending for the playoffs and could get promoted on, I think, the smallest budget in the Football League, or one of them at least?
It's an extraordinary season story, Jack, that to get them into the playoffs and very close actually towards promotion. I think it's a mentality shift. And listen, I'm a massive fan of Jim Bentley. I think he's done an extraordinary job at Morecambe for the last 10 years. And I don't want to kind of rewrite that because of what his successor has done. On the flip side to that, I do think that under the previous regime, there was a tendency to kind of embrace the little old Morecambe tag, and I think the budget was used as a reason for their struggles, and possibly quite validly. But what Derek Adams has done is he's very laser focused, he's very driven, he's changed the culture at the club just to get everyone focusing on one thing at the same time. And I think that's a massive factor, and possibly something that we've underestimated a little bit. And Adams has had some criticism for his treatment of Kevin Ellison, and we saw in the game earlier in the season when Ellison went like that to Derek Adams, and fair play to Ellison, and he trained great for himself to sort of respond to that. But again, I think it shows that Adams is not willing to make ruthless decisions, and only bring in players that kind of fit the culture and the working environment that he's trying to create. So yeah, all credit to him for that. And then we've seen the development of people like Carlos Mendes Gomez, who's a really an emerging star for Morecambe this season, and Cole Stockton, as well as a hold-up player. I really like Sam Lavelle, such a maturing young leader at the back. So Adams has done a brilliant job, and he's actually been linked with the Bradford City job. So you hope that that's not going to affect Morecambe too much when it comes to these playoff games.
Yeah, I think if we waited a few weeks to do this video and he'd won promotion via the playoffs, he'd be number one. I think there wouldn't be too many complaints about that. But Simon, in terms of squeezing everything out of his players, his resources, it's been outstanding by Adams, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's an interesting one that he took the Morecambe job, and no disrespect to Morecambe, but I think Derek Adams may have been linked with a higher profile job, maybe another League One job after the work he did at Plymouth. I know it didn't end too well, but he's already won promotion from League Two with Plymouth. Now he looks like he could do the same with Morecambe. He's a really, really top manager. And Gab mentioned there's some of the players he's developed. I don't think he spent a single penny in the summer, which isn't unusual for Morecambe. They bring in free transfers, loans, but it's the players that were at the club that he's helped develop. I think Mendes Gomez, if I'm right, he played for someone like West Didsbury a few years ago.
West Didsbury and Chilton, yeah.
That's it, Gab. And he's just come on leaps and bounds in the last kind of 2 or 3 years. 15 goals this season, scoring goals. He's playing attacking football. It's like Jim Bentley did a brilliant job with Morecambe, but Derek Adams has just taken them to a whole nother level, scored 3rd or 4th highest amount of goals in the league. Good to watch. And if they achieve promotion, it'll be one of the stories of the season. Derek Adams has done an amazing, amazing job. And if he gets promotion with Morecambe, I think he'll stay for another season, have a go in League One. If he doesn't, I think we'll see him in League One or potentially even the Championship sometime soon.
Could he do a Gareth Ainsworth and take Morecambe into the Championship? I mean, it's incredible to think, isn't it? Number 2, Mark Bonner at Cambridge was staying in League Two. His first ever season in management, and he's won a promotion with a 2nd place finish. There are question marks over his experience and his age. I think he's only 35 or was 34 at the time. He's propelled the club back to League One for the first time in 19 years. He's a boyhood Cambridge fan. He was a season ticket holder, turned coach, turned manager. He's built an entertaining side full of goals. They're great to watch, aren't they? But they've also got a bit of character and resolve about them. And most importantly, he's finally got his own Wikipedia page. When we were trying to find information on him when he was appointed, there's another Mark Bonner and someone else with a similar name as well. Gab.
You were doing him a disservice, weren't you? Weren't you saying he was about 49?
Gab, for people who haven't seen Cambridge much this season, just how good have they been to watch?
Yeah, it's I think what stands out to me is I think they've been a team for moments. I don't think they're a side that's necessarily dominated games, but I just think that what they've got at the top end of the pictures has been the difference in lots of tight games. And you look at Wes Houlihan, who is probably the signing of the summer in League Two. He's been incredibly creative. I think Mark Bonner's been very sensible in managing his minutes, playing him on a Saturday and then maybe resting him on a Tuesday to keep him fresh, keep that sort of sharpness about him. And then what I'd love to touch on is this the story of Paul Mullin, because he's never been particularly prolific previously in his career at places like Tranmere, at Swindon and Morecambe, but he's always been a very hard-working striker in League Two, got a decent spring on him, but you didn't really expect him to be 12-odd goals better off than a James Vaughan or an Ian Doyle, and the fact that he's been able to do that is extraordinary, and I think it shows he's been playing in the right system. So on the one hand, you've got Houlihan behind him, creating that magic at Hiram Boateng as well. But he's also got a strike partner in Joe Ironside. So rather than Mullin being the one kind of crafting in the channels and helping other players come to the before. He's actually been had a bit more freedom to kind of poke with Ironside running the channels, and that was great, by the way, from Macclesfield. So I don't think Cambridge have necessarily dominated games, but they've certainly had the quality at the right moments.
Do you think Bonner can take a lot of credit for Mullins' incredible form? Because I think it's a record, isn't it? The amount of goals he's got this season.
Absolutely, and nobody saw that coming. So yeah, I think he's done a brilliant job in terms of building the right system that's going to get the best out of him, and clearly that's worked. But listen, Mullins going to take all the credit, but there's people like Al Noyle, that right back, is very athletic, and then Paul Digby doing all the dirty work at the base of midfield. These players take some credit as well. So been very much a team effort, and well done to Cambridge. I'm really excited to see how Mark Bonner gets on against some big names in the managerial dugout in League One, and he certainly deserves that opportunity.
He signed a 3-year deal, of course, since the season finished. Simon, we're probably going to get a lot of stick, and maybe fairly so, from Cheltenham fans for not including Michael Duff, who won the league in this top 5. But what is it about Mark Bonner's first season which has impressed you the most?
Yeah, like Gab just mentioned, the way he's brought on these players, the fact that Mullins got 32 goals in 46 games is absolutely remarkable. I think Ironside was a free this summer as well. So the fact he's built this team around Mullin almost, I don't think he'd expect this goal return, though. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think he even had a stand named after him at Cambridge this season. That's how good he's been. And you look at Mullin, his previous highest goals total was 9 for Morecambe in a season. And this season he's hit 30 plus. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I think it's just the goal scoring, the fact he's found a system that works, and the fact he can supply a goal scorer who's just so consistent this season in hitting the back of the net. And I think it's been so impressive because I think, if I'm right, if I did my research, he only became a first team coach in 2018. And then obviously he got the job once Colin Calderwood was sacked and got the first team managerial job. And it's just been up and up for Cambridge since then, because he's been a remarkable appointment. It just shows there's so many talented young coaches around the country. If they get the chance at this sort of level, they can really shine. And now Bonner's, his CV's stronger for it. He's got a promotion on there. Now he's a League One manager. It's going to be exceptional to see what he can do against the likes of Sheffield Wednesday next season in League One. So let's see how he gets on. But I think he has been so good for Cambridge, and I don't think anyone saw this coming. The fact that he's achieved promotion already and finished in those automatic promotion slots is what puts him above Derek Adams at Morecambe.
And before we get on to our big reveal for number 1, we've got to have some creditable mentions to other managers who have done really well in different circumstances. We've got Nathan Jones at Luton in Championship, Mark Robbins, Simon, your Coventry man, even Gareth Ainsworth. Yes, he got relegated, but brilliant job he's done there at Wycombe. And who knows, they might still be playing the Championship. I don't know what's happening with this Derby situation. We'll have to wait and see. In League One, Darren Ferguson, Michael Appleton, he could easily be in this. Neil Critchley at Blackpool, Russell Martin, I'm sure he's got a bright future ahead of him as well. Liam Richardson at Wigan, and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank and Dina Maria at Burton. In terms of impact, coming in January, they've had an absolute start. I think only a few teams have got more points than them since then. We mentioned Michael Duff. I really am sorry, Cambridge Cheltenham fans. Michael Duff, absolutely brilliant. Unfortunately, he has just missed out on this occasion. And Alex Ravel as well, who's had a decent season in League Two. But number 1 is none other than Valerian Ismail at Barnsley. Amazing. When he was appointed in October, I imagine there's a fair bit of Googling going on. Who is this guy that Barnsley have appointed? They hadn't won all season in their opening 6 games. They were quoted at 500 to 1 to go on and reach the playoffs. I don't know if that's true, but that is a staggering price. Fast forward to May, they finished 5th in one of the most competitive leagues in the world. Best finish this century, I believe, by the club. They've made the playoffs. Their style has caught the eye. It's ferocious, isn't it? A pressing style of play. It's brilliant to watch. A very young squad as well. Simon, what a story this is. I believe you spoke to the CEO of Barnsley recently as well for the Sportsman. What does he make of this all?
It was Dave Murphy, and he's just delighted. He said he wasn't mentioning any of the P words, which was promotion, playoffs, or anything like that when I spoke to him. And that was a couple of months ago now, but now they're in the playoffs, and what an achievement it is. I mean, to appoint a manager who not many people had heard of, let's be brutally honest, in the English game, apart from his little spell at Crystal Palace as a player, and for him to come in and do this, and it's just been something that nobody would have seen come in. But Barnsley's appointments in the last 3 years have been really, really, really good. Obviously, losing Struber, something they didn't want to happen, but he's taken a really good job there in New York Red Bulls, isn't it? And he's Valerian Ismail's come in and absolutely smashed it. His style's been frantic. It's been frenetic. He's brought the best out of players like Callum Styles. He's been so good. Daryl Dike, Alex Mowatt's probably one of the championship midfielders of the season. I think since he's come in, they've got 10 more points than Bournemouth, who have also been resurgent, finished in the playoffs. Only Norwich, Watford and Brentford have earned more points in the same time period. Watford, who finished second, for some context, got 3 more points than Barnsley did since Ismail got appointed. And this was a team who escaped relegation with the last kick of the game this time last season, and now they're in the playoffs and 3 games away from the Premier League. And you know what? I would absolutely love Barnsley to go up, and I think Ismail, come on, man, he's just my favourite manager in the Championship, apart from Mark Robin.
Yeah, this is what I missed out last season. Saved on the final day of the season. Many thought they're going to improve a bit, but maybe just a little bit above the relegation zone or mid-table perhaps. But this is unbelievable what he's done there. What next? Can they win promotion? And I've just seen today, he's been linked to Palace, who he of course played for. He's 25-1. He's 7-2 to get the Palace job if Hodgson leaves. So Barnsley might have to swat away a few clubs in the next few months.
Yeah, well, one of the people at the office where I work is a Crystal Palace fan, and I was talking to him about the fact that Valerian Ismail was actually a Palace player during the period. I think it was sort of late 90s-ish when they were kind of overspending a little bit and kind of begun to get them into a little bit of trouble. So he's got a previous history with them, although that successful history, if you like. But his high pressing game has been quite extraordinary this season. And I think Barnsley have actually hit a bit of a gold mine in terms of the way they recruit managers, because I think in Germany and in Austria, there's a lot of really good managerial talent that could do well in England. But there's a lot more money in the Championship than there is in the Austrian Bundesliga, for example, or sometimes even the lower German clubs. And I think that's a great way of attracting managers, because you're kind of selling them the division just below the Premier League. And I think that's a really attractive proposition for really good, talented coaches. So all credit to them for that recruitment policy, both in terms of managers and in terms of players, where they've got players like Mads Andersen, who's a really talented defender, really resurged over the last 18 months or so. And then they've been found Daryl Dike from Orlando. He's been a revelation. But yeah, just that pressing style, they're just so aggressive. They're actually quite direct in possession. I think if you took that pressing away, they wouldn't be half as exciting a side. But because they're so often it's almost like a rugby match watching Barnsley, in the way that they just don't give opposing teams a moment's peace. And they've seemed to have been able to get better and better as coaches.
Could it work in the Premier League if they got promoted?
It's a great question. I mean, I think a lot would depend on whether they can keep Valerian Ismail, keep someone like Daryl Dike at the top end of the pitch. Would it work? The honest answer to that is I don't know, because I do think they would unsettle a lot of teams that would be expecting a lower Premier League club to kind of pump the gas and give them a lot of space. Barnsley wouldn't do that, of course. So I think they could bloody a few noses. Whether they would be able to get enough points, 40 points to stay up, I'm not quite so sure, but certainly remarkably impressive.
The reason I think that Barnsley can win the playoffs and bloody a few noses in the Premier League if they get there is based on the teams they're playing in playoffs as well. If you look at Bournemouth, Swansea and Brentford, they're teams that like possession of the ball. They're teams who like to pass out from the back. And if you look at the teams that Barnsley have lost against this season, it's teams that have thought, right, you know what, we're not going to pass the ball about. We'll go direct as you are, and we'll try and outright you. Now, Bournemouth, Swansea and Brentford are going to step pretty consistently to their styles. And I think in the Premier League, you'll get a lot of that as well. I think where Barnsley can get caught out is a team who likes to counter-attack and be quite direct themselves and miss out the midfield and escape all of that danger. Whereas those teams in the playoffs, I don't think they're going to be too keen to do that. So I think Barnsley can win the playoffs. I think they could certainly shake up the Premier League. I'd absolutely love it, but it's all credit to Valérien Ismaël, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant.
He's been brilliant to watch. Barnsley have been absolutely brilliant to watch. Best of luck to their fans in the playoffs. Gav, Simon, thank you very much today, boys.
Cheers, Jack. Thanks for having us.
That's my pleasure, Jack. Cheers for having me.